Okay, this session we're taking a look at is again in pre-season. This session finishes with one of the first times that we really let the players like run at each other properly. I think it's pretty important to let players feel kind of as close as you can get to full collisions a few times before the first competitive game. So that's why this session is heading. Obviously, in some of the other sessions, you'll see a lot of crawls and stuff like that. I think as we get more into the contact and we've got the human body more prepared for those contacts, those impacts and collisions, we do a little less of this stuff, and it becomes more of a warm-up rather than kind of the meat of the session. So obviously, you just saw some crawls, backwards crawls, now some wheelbarrows. Again, this all falls into the bucket of contact prep. It's going to start waking the kind of musculoskeletal system up for contact and contact with the floor, but also it's going to start waking up the nervous system for contact with the floor. Obviously, any contact sport where you're going to be getting tackled or tackling, you're going to be in contact with the floor a lot. So I think it's something that players need to use and be comfortable with and kind of aware of their body in relation to the floor and in relation to the space around it. There we go again with some hip escapes. You've probably seen this a few times if you watch the other videos. This one's without ball, kind of a jiu-jitsu thing. So forgive us if the technique's not perfect, but yeah, pretty good, pretty helpful kind of movement, especially for rugby league, but not only for rugby league. So what you're actually seeing in this session is a mix of two different groups that we put through this particular contact session. Same drills apart from one, same exercises, but just turned out better to present it that way by chopping up the groups. But the players are different, the session is not. These was one after the other. So now we're moving on from the proprioceptive stuff, the crawls, the contact with the floor, to a little bit more contact with an opponent. So one player just doing a simple plank, another player just what we call kind of turtling, so moving around their body. What we tried to say to the players there is like, as you're moving around, is like get a piece of the player doing the plank. So start to feel those kind of little hooks and levers that you might be able to use to manipulate an opponent's body. Get your hands into kind of useful places in terms of leverage instead of just putting your hands flat on them and not really thinking about it. Then again, we're just up in the contact here, so transitioning to a pummel. Just a little camera adjustment there. As you can probably see in any of these videos, pummeling is a real staple. Like I said, it just ticks so many boxes. And that's a pummel on the coach's go, again, going for double underhooks. Okay, what you'll see now is we've gone from a pummel to one of the players just trying to find the floor, and then they're kind of going to slow death them to the ground. And then there's a little bit of a wrestle on the ground. So slow death is a term we use to talk about controlling them to the ground, so not just dropping them straight. Again, I think this could be used, there's no reason this can be used in any contact sport, but because it just helps you get used to the feel of the human body and locking hooks in. But obviously particularly useful for rugby league, where we want to be slowing the play the ball down and stealing as much time as we can during that descent. You can't steal too much time on the floor because you'll get penalised, but you can steal a second or two during that descent, really control it down to the ground. If you've got, this is a good test of your hooks, so we talk about underhooks, overhooks during the pummel. If you haven't got good hooks in, then you're not going to be able to really control them down to the ground. You're going to lose grip, you're going to come away, there's going to be too much separation. Interesting thing here you might see is, like, we've only done a few rounds of pummels and crawls, but you can really start to see the fatigue creeping in. Particularly, I think this particular session, if I remember rightly, was in August, and very, very hot in that contact room. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons you can start to see a bit of fatigue and exhaustion coming in, and particularly as this is one of the first sessions where we really up the ante in terms of contact. There you go, you can see some of the players have really locked in their underhooks and overhooks, and then when they get to the ground, head locked in tight, hips locked in tight. One of the players in the background there just got tipped over the top because he just didn't have his feet in the ground. Kind of hard in a contact room, but on a field you'd be using your studs there, keeping your studs in the ground. Bit more impact in the pummels there. Again, just preparing that nervous system in the body for contact. There we go, a little bit too quick to ground there, a little bit too heavy, maybe the hooks weren't in. And again, getting tipped over, that happens a little bit more in the contact room when you don't have the studs, like I said. Then we're going from that pummel to just straight out competitive wrestle from the knees, just trying to get the opponent on their back. So hopefully you can see the logic. We've gone from proprioception, crawls, a little bit more contact with the floor and contact with an opponent, then into pummels, which is obviously up in the contact ante, and then we're just going straight into proper competition, proper contact here in terms of the wrestle demands. Doing it from the knees just takes some of that impact out of it, takes some of that, there's always a risk of injury in any of this stuff. I like to think in wrestling there's a very low risk of injury, but you can't eliminate it. Doing it from the knees takes away some of the risk towards the legs, towards the lower limbs, but also just makes a lot of emphasis on the upper body strength and that strength through the hips. Also saves space. You can have plenty of people doing it at the same time, and they're not going to be going all over the contact room, taking up the space of the other groups. Okay, slight change in the wrestle here. So there's going to be one player who's kind of got their frame there on elbows and knees, and another player who's just going to be trying to keep them there, keep them pinned to the ground. What you want to see here is a nice squeeze around the upper body, take their oxygen away, and as you see right in the foreground there, getting those hips as close to the ground as possible to take away the space, and really kind of push their upper body down, their head down. It's going to stop them from getting up. Again, no reason this can't be used in any context, but specific to slowing the play of the ball down in rugby leagues, stopping them from getting up when they want, even after kind of finding a frame with the ground. And you see one player tipped over the top very easily. That's one of the more senior players in this group against one of the more junior players, so you'll see that. He seems to have learned his lesson a little bit and is sticking his hips to the floor a little more. No, still gets tipped over. That's how you learn. He's going to learn from those failures when he's getting tipped around by a senior player. It's good, it's necessary. In fact, just as I said that he's learned, you can see in the background that player who got tipped over is almost using the same technique to get out, kind of using his elbow, kind of twist his body out to the side. And so we're going for a few seconds at a time here. You'd be surprised, even if it's 5, 10, 15 seconds, you'd be surprised how fatiguing this is, especially in the heat, the August heat. A well-earned drinks break. So we want these things to be hard, but we don't want these things to be unsafe. So we're always making sure that the players are getting a drink, getting time to rest and recover. Some of the sessions you want to be more power-based, where you're going to give them more recovery time. Some of the sessions are more conditioning-based, where there's less recovery time and it's more continuous, more non-stop. But even if it is, look, we don't want people overheating. We want it to be challenging, but not a risk. And if you watch the other videos, this will be a drill that you've seen a few times. So just getting that last step into contact, dip, explode up into contact, force that shield carrier backwards. There's a fuller explanation of the logic behind this drill in the other videos, so I won't repeat the same ground here. Again, hopefully you can see the logic here. So we've gone from kind of one step into the collision to now a bit of separation, but we're still using the shield, so we're still not going kind of body on body, bone on bone. Again, this is a staple drill that we use. So we've got that tackle bag in the middle. The ball carrier, the shield carrier is going to take a step around it. The tackler is going to get up, close that space, and because of that obstacle, they really need to kind of shorten their feet before contact. If they start planting their feet, they're not going to be able to adjust around it or predict where we don't want them predicting, we don't want them over anticipating where the shield carrier is going to go. We want them reacting and really getting their body into the contact. What we don't want to see is them kind of reaching with their arms. We want to see, foot in close, knee in close, and body in the hip. We don't want to see We want to see them taking a meaningful step across and towards the contact, while keeping kind of square downfield, keeping that hips and shoulders north-south downfield, not turning too much, and also not turning after contact. That's one of the less experienced, more junior players, despite the size of him. I'm just telling him to do it again because wasn't a great rep for a few reasons, but one of the things he did was had his hands right down by his side. So I told him, get your hands up before contact. Like I said, work in progress. Just gets a tap on the shoulder from one of the senior players there. We're just slowly upping the intensity of the hit as well. A little bit of a breaking of the core, breaking of the posture afterwards. So we're not just satisfied with a hit. We want to lock in afterwards, find some hooks, find some levers, try and manipulate their body after contact if we can. Again, following the same logic now, we've got rid of the shields. We're going for a two-on-one tackle, but we're still just doing that kind of last step into contact. So while there was more separation before, there was a shield involved. Now there's no shield involved. This is one of the first sessions where they're really whacking each other, so that's why we're keeping the distance reduced between us, also because of the numbers involved in a quite small space. So 2 hands on the ball, transition to 1 hand and take a powerful step into contact. And then someone just took one in the nuts. That's going to happen from time to time as well. These are the dangers of running a contact session. If you do it right, you're not going to get real injuries, but you can't always protect the crown jewels. So nice, they've adapted. They've lost the player, but just gone into the one-on-one hit. So what we really want these two players is like really closing that door. So same knee, same foot, same shoulder, really close the door. We don't want that foot backwards where the foot. So if we're making a right shoulder hit, we don't want our right foot backwards. We want right foot forwards into that contact. Close the door. Don't let them make meters after that initial contact. I think what we've asked the players to do here is we've told the ball carrier they can put the ball in one hand slightly earlier. So what we're looking for is that second tackler to just have a kind of slightly lower first point of contact. There you go, you see it there. So we want to be locking up the ball, but then the tackler who's not on the ball carrying side is able to go immediately for a lower tackle. We call this a guillotine tackle. So we're just going to really just trying to kind of chop them in half. Some tackles you saw before with both tacklers are going for more of like an upper body contact, more upright contact, just to kind of stop any forward progress, forward momentum. And you'll see some of these reps are pretty sloppy, but that's training. That's the reality of training. Okay, this is the drill that we did with one of the groups and not the other group, and that's because of their positions. So what we've got is 2 tacklers, a bit of separation between us, but only 1 tackler is allowed to go on the whistle. They need to keep the shield carrier locked up. As soon as they make that contact, the second tackler can come in. And what we want the second tackler doing is being quite sensible and strategic with their shoulder placement. We don't want them just rushing in and just being a dead weight or just cuddling. We want them to make an impact and kind of be the most effective possible as that second player into the tackle. It's also challenging for the first player. This is going to happen from time to time. You're going to have a split second or a second or two where you make that first contact and you really need to hold on to a player who's trying to drive out, trying to break out, trying to get an arm free for an offload, trying to spin out of the tackle. So good for a couple of reasons. Always go through all the tackle process, finish with our markers in place. Just building those good habits from the ground up. You might see there, we want a really good, again, this is pretty rugby league specific, we want a good posture from marker. We want a nice aggressive, dynamic posture, ready to go and make another play. We don't want them upright, kind of getting caught off balance, caught off guard. There we go, and obviously as it's league, what you'll be seeing in a lot of these tackles is we want the ball carrier, the shield carrier on their back. That's kind of the win, the best case scenario. Bit unfair, the second tackler went in under the shield there. Kind of mean. Good contact. Now they just hold the ball carrier up for a second just before he hit the floor. Again, just trying to buy a bit more time. Kind of difficult skill, but occasionally you'll see it in a game. A nasty bit of conditioning here, so we go for monkey rolls or commandos, and on the coach's go or the whistle they're going to transition to a two-man tackle in their little three. This is one of the most brutal conditioning drills you can do, in my opinion. Again, not just about running conditioning. You can see me telling one of the players they need to dive on the floor there, they shouldn't be landing on their feet, they need to kind of dive straight onto the floor. And then there's the whistle into a two-man tackle. So getting that technique right under fatigue is the kind of aim of the game there. Finishing markers, little half step at the end. You can see the guy in the middle there, one of our kind of fittest players. It's very rare you see him tired and he's really struggling, so that was the kind of nature of this session. And you can see there the players have realised there's only two of them, so they can't do the three-player commando, so they're doing a two-player commando. That's what you want. You want players adapting, finding the solution. You're not always going to get the players that you want to pull off the play that you want, or the players that you need in a tackle. You just need to adapt. There we go, another whistle. Transitioning straight to a tackle. Super tiring drill here. Nice for pre-season. Then we're finishing. Hopefully, like I said, you can see the logic of this session. We've kind of built the intensity as we go out and go up, or go through the session, I should say. And then we finish with three-man tackles. Like I said, this is one of the first times, I think it might have been the first time in the pre-season that we let the players properly run at each other and into a collision. Obviously, pretty controlled environment, and there's not a huge distance between them, but still kind of taxing on the human body, and you shouldn't throw, in my opinion, you shouldn't throw players into that situation without plenty of build-up, both within the same session, but over the course of the pre-season and the season. So this one's high on contact, high on collisions, but kind of low on chaos, if that makes sense, because there's only really one option they've got to account for. There's not really, a lot of footwork, a lot of different things that the ball carrier can do to pose more of a challenge. So it's really just about getting the collision in, and also getting the technique in, the communication in, the contact. Obviously, league, we want to be wrestling them. We want to be getting them on their back. There, I just told the two guys who are on the upper body to squeeze, be a little heavier. I don't want to see, like I said in a different video, I don't want to see space. I don't want to see separation. I don't want to see daylight. I don't want the ball carrier to have oxygen in that situation. I want him squeezed. I want him uncomfortable. Okay, so each group of three has to make several tackles in a row. I don't know if it was 4 or 5 tackles in a row. Again, at the end of a kind of heavy, hot contact session, that's going to be surprisingly fatiguing. And as I always say, there's much more to conditioning than just running. As we see, the third man's way too high there. It needs to go down to the legs. You can put your shoulder in, I think, around the waist, around the hips, but as long as you take the legs and take both legs, don't just try to take one or lift one. We want to take both legs away from the ball carrier. might have seen the ball carrier started his run with the ball in one hand there. That's a habit I really tried to get some of the guys out of. I think especially guys who may have come from rugby union, they've got a habit of just tucking the ball under one arm and running. Like even in this drill where they haven't got an option to pass, always want them to start with the ball in two hands. There are some very skillful players who can tuck the ball into one hand and then get it back to two to do a little short pass to kind of send the wrong messages to the defence, but that's not everyone. And obviously just tapping the hands as always at the end of these sessions. Just to finish up, I'm going to show you some of the bigger bodies, their tackles. This group was interesting. There was, I think because the ball was slippery, the players were slippery with the sweat, and also just because it was the first time they've done this, there was a real lack of control in some of these tackles. I think that's what I'm telling the players there, or somebody's telling them, just a bit more control. But kind of even there, I think we saw the head on the wrong side of the tackle there. So we split this group forwards and back. So these are some of the bigger boys. One of them's got split open there. Like I said, he got his head on the wrong side and got split open. He's okay, but just got a little cut above the eye. That was a good contact on a big ball carrier. Ball came loose. But yeah, we don't always split forwards and backs or big bodies or positional like that because we want the smaller bodies to be tackling the bigger bodies in training as well. But I think just this was a rare occasion that we decided to. I can't remember the exact logic. There you go. Again, players adapting on the fly. One of the players saw that one of them was a little bust open and got in there, got him out. Again, that's a really strong ball carrier. Didn't kind of really nice closing of the door, but then he manages to wrestle out the contact to his front. That can happen. That's what you want from there's a good contact. That's what you want from ball carriers as well. You don't want them thinking, oh, if that was a good shot, or I'm heading onto my back. You want them fighting to find their front, fight to fall forwards out of the tackle, which is again what's happened there. That's why I'm telling you about the kind of lack of control in this group, but also, the ball carriers are making it hard for them. As I've said plenty of times throughout this package, you want it's important to get some messy reps. It can't all look like a textbook. That one was as messy as it gets because not every player was ready. So, obviously on social media we want to put all the best reps, but that's not the reality of the sport nor how these sessions go. So, some messy reps, but players need to be able to handle messy and react messy when they haven't got a good shot, haven't got a clean shot. Just having a little debrief there, I think, as well. Just telling them a little more control is what we're looking for. But yeah, that was the end of this session. So like I said, one of the more intense, I think, the more fatiguing, the more demanding in terms of conditioning, but also one of the demanding in terms of contact and collisions, because it was one of the first times that we really threw the players into just those kind of really running at each other and trying to stop each other. That more confrontational element that we all love.